Okay, shall I make a start?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. This is a individual executive member decision. This one is for the Berkshire Emergency Duty Service EDS contract with Bracknell Forest Council. Present, we have councillors Kaiser and Clark, and officers in attendance. We have Carol Camis, Wesley Hedger, Sarah Sessi, and myself, Callum Wernham. I'm the clerk, and I will now hand over to Sarah to just briefly go over the recommendation.
Sure. Firstly, just to introduce myself, I'm Sarah Cisse. I work in commissioning. I'm the lead for this contract in the commissioning service. Woking Borough Council, we were issued with this new contract for our emergency duty service. As Carol has already briefly said, the emergency duty service is hosted by Bracknell Forest Council. It's a service that's provided to all the Berkshire local authorities. Due to the total value of the contract, with it being a 7-year contract, we're required for a executive decision for this contract to commence. The reason why we've gone through this route for an IEMD is detailed in the report, the full details on page 6 under the explanation of exceptional circumstances. It's mainly due to COVID. I can go into a bit more detail, but I'm sure we all know the restrictions that's placed on us over this time. The timescales for approving this contract were very, very tight anyway. Originally, Bracknell wanted us to commence with the new contract from the beginning of June, but with the added pressure due to COVID-19, meetings were cancelled, legal services needed to review the contract, their timescales were delayed and restricted. It was just impossible to meet that original deadline. So that's why we sought the decision through this route. But since then, EDS have actually come back to us and changed the start date of the contract to the 1st of August because all the other local authorities were also struggling to meet that original date. So the background of the service, the current contract, it was actually originally issued in 2012 and ended in 2015, but we've been extending it annually since then. So it's a very old contract. It's very out of date, and we have wanted a new contract in place. We've been working with Bracknell and with the other local authorities through workshops over the last couple of years to develop this new contract. One of the main things that we fed back to them through those workshops was that we wanted a fairer way of the funding arrangement, because where we are the smallest user of the contract, this is detailed in the report on page 7, we're the smallest user of the contract, followed by RBWM and West Berks. But we're paying a larger proportion of the fixed costs, which is like the building, electricity, things like that. We wanted the cost reduced with us being a smaller user. So the value of the contract is actually now coming in as less than the previous contract. So the current contract, the one that's in place today, was 254,000 for 1920. The annual value of the new contract is 216,450. So it's coming in as less because they've taken on board and changed the funding arrangement. So we're benefiting for that reason. So there were a couple of other things that we wanted them to incorporate into the new contract, which were things like, because although we've been having these workshops, there's been limited opportunities to review the work of the service, to have kind of two-way discussions and work collaboratively with them. So we wanted regular contract monitoring meetings in place. And as part of the new contract, they've agreed that they will have quarterly contract monitoring meetings and project boards. We wanted regular finance information that hasn't been provided frequently or in enough detail up until now, and they've agreed that they're going to share that with us quarterly. And they also wanted better information from our side to feed so that they can make decisions for us out of hours, more effective decision making. And they've agreed that as part of the new contract also. So we're happy that some of the things, the issues that we had with the original contract, the current contract, are being met through the new contract. But the issue that we had is that we haven't had all that information up until now. And with this being a 7-year contract, it felt like we were kind of going in blindly to this new contract where we hadn't had those regular meetings. and that regular information. So to assure ourselves of what we were sort of entering into, we wanted to ensure that there was a break clause included, that new variations were to take place, that we had KPIs in place, and they've agreed to all of those things that we've proposed. So that's assured us that we're now entering into this new contract, and had the issues that we had have now been met. We've also considered some alternative options, which are detailed on page 9 of the contract, which are that EDS, with it being a shared service with the other Berkshire local authorities, if we were to leave that arrangement, we would need to undertake a full retender of the contract. It would be very time consuming. And we may not end up with achieving a suitable arrangement anyway. With us being a low user of the service, the cost of delivering an in-house service would be significant. It just wouldn't be feasible. We have looked at alternative arrangements with other local authorities also, and it just didn't meet our needs, and it was not cost effective. So that's what brings us to this point now, where I think, as Carol had said previously, we are quite limited on our options. And we have ensured that measures are in place to assure ourselves with the conditions that we've agreed with Bracknell. So I'll stop there if there's any comments or questions.
So I guess, sorry,
I'm happy to see that we are actually saving money by entering into a new contractual arrangement. And I am surprised that this wasn't looked at previously. I do understand the circumstances behind that. And I'm happy we now have new people on board, and we are looking more closely at contracts. So as I understand it, the only snag here would be the IT system. Is that something we can overcome, or how do you see that working?
So in the report, I think you're referring to where we've said that we wanted them to submit their key performance indicators through our new contract management IT system. So it wasn't considered to be a major blockage for us. It would be our preference that they were to complete it in that system, as it would benefit us. It would just be easier for all of our information to be held in one system. They, as it says in the report, they didn't agree initially, as they are using a number of IT systems for Bracknell, and then also all the other IT systems that they have to use, and our social care IT system also. But I feel confident that we can work with them over time once we have actually entered the new contract. Worst comes to worst, they will still submit it to us in a spreadsheet, and then we can enter it for them on our side. But I believe that we can manage doing something in the meantime until we can agree with them a way forward.
It doesn't mean that it will be an extra cost for us.
It won't be, no. They will continue to submit the data in a spreadsheet, which is what they're currently doing. They email us a spreadsheet. So it would just be, it's our preference just because it would be easier for us for it to be all in one IT system, but it doesn't affect our costs in any way.
Does it mean all the other all the other local authorities have the same system as Bracknell then, and we are the odd one out?
So they don't, no, they all have different IT systems. So I think that's what Bracknell's argument was, that because they have to use all of our different social care systems as well as their own social care system, they also have a like an information management system that they would use themselves for Bracknell anyway. So their argument was this is yet another system that they would have to input into and learn and be trained up in. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Wes, were you going to add something to that?
I was just to say, Councillor Cole, we're looking to move all our contracts onto one management information system to provide greater probity around our contracts. So our preference would be for the key performance indicators for any contract to be submitted via our new system. But however, as Sarah's saying, we're talking about key performance indicators, so there's not a significant amount of data entry on our behalf. So while it would be our preferred choice, it wouldn't be a significant issue.
I think this contract is a good one because we're actually only going to pay for what we use.
Yes.
Okay. Were there any other clarifications or questions you had?
Yeah, we're a very small user of this, aren't we?
We are, yeah, the smallest.
And are the costs prorated? I mean, if you look at Slough, they use 5 times as much as we do. So would they pay 5 times as much?
That they will now they will be paying more than they were. That's why we've benefited from this year arrangement.
Not the question. The question is it prorated the way it's charged? And we use 11%. So do we pay 11% of the bill, or do we pay more than that?
So 25% of the amount that we're paying is a split cost of the fixed element. So the fixed element is the rent, the electricity, phone calls, things like that. 75% is the prorated element that you're talking about. So we are now paying a larger proportion of the total cost that we are paying is prorated, meaning that we then benefit from that. Previously, it was a higher proportion for the fixed cost.
And when you start looking around at long-term projects that we're doing with other councils, we've ended up as the idiot cousin in a lot of cases, where we're the least user and we pay the most. And I just don't want to, this is 7 years, this contract. What's the break clause? How long's the break clause?
12 months.
Yes.
12 months. So we could just, in 12 months, if we were unhappy with it. You see, what I don't mind doing, I don't mind paying my fair share, but I don't want to be subsidising people whose performance are significantly worse than our council. Well, there's no point in us being good. I mean, that's a major concern of ours. I mean, we have a situation with quite a few of these joint ventures, PPP and all those sorts of things, where we pay massive contributions and we don't use the service.
So, this contract will work more on a pro rata basis, so it would be a more fair funding stream for Wokingham than the previous arrangements. I guess the other thing to note is this service is supporting children's services, adult services, and homelessness. That is quite a broad remit of provision. There wouldn't be the same, I think, as the report says, the same cost and volumes that we would benefit by not entering into a joint agreement in this way because of the volumes that we experience in Wokingham. But as I say, it is a pro rata based contract. So going forward, it would be more telling of the actual usage that we've had in Wokingham.
And that will be reported on a quarterly basis, will it?
Yes.
It will. Yeah, so one of the things that we said to Bracknell, in the contract, it says a quarterly basis. We said for the first year, we want monthly meetings with them to assure ourselves that we're entering into an arrangement that truly does benefit us and that we're happy with it. And they will be providing us with monthly information throughout the whole length of the contract. So even though after a year we'll be meeting quarterly, we will still receive monthly data. And that will include our usage information. So we can check that.
So in essence, we pay a standing order. We're a standing order charge basically to cover a percentage of the overheads, and thereafter it's charged on what we use.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So that in itself is quite a good thing, and we've got a 12-month break clause, so we're unhappy with that. And is there any opportunity during the time, obviously, because we're only paying for what we are getting, we wouldn't be flexing the contract during the time, would we, financially, because we've agreed to pay a percentage of the overhead?
Yeah, the only reason the contract would increase is if the level of demand increased over the period.
Right. So if we were using it more, we'd pay more for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, what percentage did you say was the actual overhead?
Sorry, what percentage are we using?
No, what percentage do we pay? I mean, the fixed costs that we pay, what percentage? That was
25% of of the total amount that we're paying, 25% of that is an equal share of that fixed cost. Okay. And then the 75% of what we are paying is based on our usage.
Okay, so how does that work then? So if our usage goes up, our 25% goes up as well, does it?
So the 25% is fixed throughout the term of the contract.
Okay, so I don't understand. Can you just? So we agree to pay them 50 grand a year, let's say. okay, as a fixed cost. Is that correct? Or do we say, or are we? See, what I don't understand is how do we know what 25% of what we're going to pay? So, are you saying each month? How does that work then? The overhead.
So, Councillor Kaiser, on page, so the pages aren't numbered. Under analysis of issues,
yes,
proposed annual costs. So it's got 67,857 as the fixed costs, and then a projected variable cost of 148,600.
Right. So £67,000 is the fixed cost. Okay. Is that correct?
That's what the report says. Yes.
£67,000. So it's not actually a percentage. It's a fixed cost.
Equal share cost 2021 is 67,850.
Okay, well that's what I'm trying to get at, because it's not a percentage of the spend, is it? Because you don't know what the spend's going to be.
No, because the secondary bit is the projected variable. So yeah, that's
okay.
the in there.
Yeah, so £67,000 we pay a year towards the fixed cost. Okay. Right, and then thereafter, whatever we buy, we paid for, and you will be looking at on a monthly basis. That's correct, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And are there any controls over what they can spend, or can they spend whatever they want?
So they have to seek our approval if they are to make any. I mean, the highest cost would be to place a child in care, or to agree for a vulnerable adult to be placed in, say, a residential home or a nursing home. But they have to seek our approval, and they're provided with our duty rota. So they have to call whoever's on duty and seek approval.
All right. So nobody. That's right. So anything, but if they want to spend, I mean, obviously they've got to have a little bit of leeway. But if they want to spend any big money, they have to come to you, and you have to give them the authority, and that's all laid out in the contract.
It is, yes.
Yeah, okay,
that's through our emergency. That's our own duty system, Councillor Kaiser. So that's the senior officers. So it's assistant directors and myself in children's services that rotate, so that we're on call. And an emergency duty have to call us to get permission.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, on that basis, I'm quite happy to sign this. I mean, we've got to have it. I don't really want to subsidise other councils, but in some cases, paying a percentage of the overheads, the fixed overheads, that's fair enough, isn't it? So, I mean, but if we can flex that and look at it in 12 months, all right, that's fine. No, I've got no more questions.
Okay, in which case I will just ask both yourself, John, and Ulla Karen to just confirm. So the recommendation is set out on agenda page 5, and just for the benefit of anyone who might be watching this, it's that the Executive Member for Children's Services, jointly with the Executive Member for Finance and Housing, consider the paper and approve the new contract for the Emergency Duty Service to commence from 1st August 2020. At a value of £216,450 for 2021, future annual values to be confirmed each year. So can you just verbally confirm, both of you, that you're happy with that recommendation?
I'm happy with the recommendation.
Yeah, I'm happy with the details of the recommendation.
That's fine. That will be signed physically at a future date, but the decision itself, subject to call-in, will be approved as normal. Okay, so thank you all very much for the meeting, and I'm going to bring it to a close now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.